It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, J.D. Walker here in the house, talking about a variety of different things going on in sports today, and we always love to hear from you as well on topics that are on your mind. 435-339-0321. That's the Full Court Press text line. If you want to be a part of the show today, always love to hear from our listening audience, wherever you may be listening, whether it's on 106.9 FM or 1390 AM, whether it's on the 106.9 The Fan mobile app, or if you're streaming on 1069thefan.com. Love to have you part of the show and weigh in on our various topics of the day today. Utah Jazz, not only was it a loss on the court, it was a loss in their personnel last night. We'll discuss that gruesome injury to Taylor Hendricks, eerily familiar to fans of former Jazz players. The Utah Hockey Club looked like they had figured things out. We're going to get a win after a bit of a losing streak, but no, they had a collapse in the third period. We'll talk about that. We got NFL news. Real Salt Lake is in the playoffs. We'll kind of look at the current standings, the current state of the Mountain West as the college football playoffs are looming. At least the first standings will be released soon. Certainly Boise State in the running for that, but what about the rest of the Mountain West? What are the standings there? And what would the new Pac-12 look like if we apply the standings this year to how teams are doing in the new organized Pac-12? Just a few things we'll look at. Plus World Series, Game 4 tonight. Is it all wrapped up in New York? Or do the Yankees survive for another day? We'll see what happens later this evening, but want to get your reactions to the first three games so far. First two, pretty exciting. Game 3, not so much, but want to get your reactions to how the World Series has been going so far. And then also we'll share the stat that blew our minds and award a player of the week. So now that I've gone through the full docket of what's on the schedule today, let's start off with the Utah Jazz. They were in Dallas, certainly more competitive against the Mavericks than they were against the Warriors last Friday. And the Jazz would show moments where they would start to creep up and get it within a possession. And then they kind of fall behind a bit, and then they kind of creep up again. But there was a period in the third quarter, there's starting to be a little bit of separation. But the Jazz were still hustling. Give them credit. They were still fighting in the game. And on kind of a fast break, Taylor Hendricks is racing down the far sideline, opposite side of the bench, and gets almost to the end line, and kind of basically puts his foot down like he's making a stop, and he just collapses. And initially I thought, oh man, he turned his ankle. That's too bad. Must be bad because he sat on his butt and he's trying to scoot to get out of bounds, and then he puts his hands on his face. And then I see the reaction from Will Hardy. I'm like, I clearly missed something. And my wife was there, and some of my kids were walking by, and I backed it up, and I stood up to get a closer look at the view because I wanted to see exactly what happened. And I'm really sorry that I did that.
Yeah.
Because it was gruesome.
He did turn his ankle.
Several ways. Yeah,
definitely the wrong direction.
Yeah, it was not good.
I do the same thing with my family, but my wife actually watches it and tells me if I can handle it or not. Just a heads up, I can't watch like Doc McStuffins on Nickelodeon without getting lightheaded. So I heard it was pretty gruesome, and then the reaction from the Jazz fans online was like, okay. And then Gordon Hayward, and I sent the text to you guys, hey, how does this, what does this say? And you guys gave me a little education last night.
Yeah, because, he had his foot turned the wrong way, and it's obviously a terrible injury, and the medical terminology was a fractured fibula, or which bone?
Tibia, I can't remember which.
Yeah, I can't remember which either, and then also the dislocated ankle, and who knows what other structural damage. It's season ending at minimum. It's the kind of injury that can be career ending. We'll have to kind of wait and see. At the very least, could be career altering. I mean, Gordon Hayward certainly had his career altered by that injury, if only for the kind of lost opportunity that he had. Taylor Hendricks, this is his prime development years, and he's now lost one of them, maybe half of next season as he continues to rehab from this. And that's why it's so devastating, especially since he'd started to show a little bit of what we were kind of hoping to see. Like last year, we were disappointed we didn't get to see Taylor Hendricks much at all. And when he was on the court, it was a little underwhelming. But now it was looking like, hey, can this guy form a front court trio with Markkanen and Kessler? And now we got to go back to John Collins and Walker Kessler. We know how that went last year. And so it's
Filipowski.
Filipowski. There's some hope with Filipowski because they're kind of branding him as maybe the next Kelly Olynyk, and there's a lot. A lot of people are pleased with how that went, but that's just something we got to kind of hope for. But even then, it's not going to compare to what we were hoping we were going to get from Taylor Hendricks. So it's really brutal. I was mad about that. I was mad about the hockey club. Last night was just not a good night for me. A lot of things went wrong. After coming off of a show where we got to talk about all the positive things for Utah State and winning that game, I come home and have my evening ruined twice in one evening. That's just...
Good thing you're not a diehard Yankees fan. Trifecta.
Stockton's going through it right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but really, I mean, it's so I looked it up, and it really is. It's exactly the same injury that Gordon Hayward suffered within the first minute?
That's first minute or two
of his debut with the Boston Celtics. The only difference is that Hayward's injury was on his left foot. Hendricks was on his right, but in both situations, the foot's pointing out to the side. And the fan reaction around him is just totally distraught.
Yeah, it's like everyone who saw it immediately it makes you cringe, it's revolting. It's like it's not a pleasant sight.
If I had the ability to tell Danny Ainge what to do or Coach Hardy what to do, I'd be trying to get Taylor Hendricks contacted with Paul George. Remember that devastating injury he had, and he was in the prime of his career.
He broke his leg early in his
career.
And
he worked hard, and he came back, and he excelled. It was one of the first people I thought of to think about. This young man's in the pinnacle of his athletic ability, which is going to work for him now in the recovery, and he can put that effort into the recovery now. But man, it just sucks to hear how he was working hard all off season. You saw the emotion from the other players; they're visibly upset on the court. And it just made me wish when I become the grand, commander of the universe, I'm just going to wave my wand and say no more competitive sports injuries. We want to see what Mike Trout would actually be like playing 162 games in Anaheim. We want to see what Bo Jackson would have done if, the Bengals hadn't broke his hip. It would be kind of a cool thing to go back and see.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But unfortunately, injuries are what they are. A lot of what ifs on what the tail end of Larry Bird's career would have been like. Or
could you imagine?
Or just the entire career of Grant Hill or Sean Livingston. Guys like that, where it's just a lot of careers. And, Greg, you can go down the list. Every franchise has their one or two players that had their career ruined by injuries.
Like Drew Bledsoe and, the getting hit in that game. If that never happened, does Tom Brady ever happen?
Yeah, that's the biggest what if in NFL history. Like, straight up. Biggest what ifs. What if the Jets don't, try and kill Drew Bledsoe on the sideline? Not to say it was a dirty hit. It was a big hit on the sideline. Of course, all Patriots fans probably still send Christmas cards. I forget the name of the defensive back, but they probably still send Christmas cards to him saying, thank you. You launched the greatest dynasty in sports history. Thank you very much.
5338 on our full court press text line weighing in. Hey, Taylor, we're not doctors or anything, but it looks like just a bruise to us. Signed Joe Theismann, Alex Smith, and Aiden Hutchinson.
Oh,
Yeah, Taylor Hendricks had his foot bent the wrong way. Those guys had their knees bent the wrong way.
Yeah.
I think Theismann was just bent completely in the wrong direction for any human life.
I think one of the best things with Joe Theismann's injury is we don't really have a great angle of his injury. Like, you can kind of tell, but you can't see the whole thing, and that's probably for the best.
Yes.
That was nice that technology saved us from that back in the day.
Yes.
Or lack
Thank
of
you.
technology. It's like Lawrence Taylor got a full view of it, and it about sent him into shock.
Yeah.
And you know what? But how about the Dallas arena giving the Utah Jazz bench little extra time to gather themselves? Because they still had a big part of the third quarter still to go and all of the fourth. When their teammate goes down in gruesome fashion, it wasn't just a, hey, let's get him off the court, we'll get him out of the arena and take a second, and then let's get back to playing basketball. Like, they took a lot of extra time, and I have to tip my hat to Dallas and how they handled that, to give that Jazz bench extra time to collect themselves. They came together. It's like Colin Sexton, really proud of his leadership, called everybody together. It looked like they were saying a prayer, but just trying to gather themselves and like, okay, you know what? Taylor Hendricks is in good hands now, but we still have a ball game to play. And but I have to give some credit to Dallas and how they handled the situation, to give the Jazz bench a little bit of time to breathe and figure out what was going on and collect themselves to get ready to finish the ball game.
It's the humanity of the sport. It's the one that makes you smile. It's a sportsmanship type thing where there are some people who are callous in the sense of, oh, just keep playing, don't worry about their emotions. It's the same kind of people that were mad that they shut down the game where what was the name of the Bills defensive back who literally almost died?
Damar Hamlin,
Yeah, and they ended that game prematurely, or like I think they played the end of that game later. And there are people saying, why are you stopping the game? It's like, someone nearly died, people.
The generations have definitely changed, because back in the day, the game must go on. It must. And now it's like,
no, it doesn't.
Hey, guess what? We actually care about people in 2024.
Yeah. Who would have thought a concept of caring about each other and each other's emotions, almost like we're all humans going through the same things. And sports is an avenue for us to kind of be human, where we show our emotions and show our competitive sides over something as weird as putting a ball in a hoop. But when you suddenly discover the human condition, realize, oh, when somebody nearly died, or, oh, somebody turned their foot backwards, the emotional impact is something that needs to be considered. And obviously that it's not as drastic as someone nearly dying, but that's why you take a second, gather yourselves, and then you can still play, because obviously it's not something of such dire emergency that the players are emotionally incapable of going on. But in this case, gather yourselves, realize everything's going to be fine, but we can still play.
Yeah, so the question now is, what is the surgery and recovery process for Taylor Hendricks? Utah hasn't really given much information other than details of what the injury specifics were. There are reports today that it is season ending.
Oh, I could have told you that.
Yeah, I can't foresee that somebody would be back on the court in enough time to play
Well, I can
this
tell
year.
you right now, he will soon have a successful surgery, because they always do.
Not always.
Don't ask Alex Smith that.
Yeah, sometimes successful surgeries can be unsuccessful.
But after they initially are done, they say, "Oh, it was a successful surgery."
They always say successfully,
and then there are complications after the successful surgery.
Yeah, that's like I said. There are real complications that happened. Unfortunately, recent events have taught us that. But so maybe I shouldn't make light of it. But yeah, he'll have a successful surgery soon, I imagine.
Okay, well, to make light of it, do you think the surgeons go, it's good, like extra point, or something like that, like? When
depends on which sport they're a fan of. If it's baseball, it's safe.
And then if they lose a patient, you're out.
You're out.
Yeah, something like
You've
that.
been ejected.
But to the game itself, as Jason, you kind of alluded to the team really before the game. The team now is going to have some time to figure out who steps into that role, because Taylor Hendricks was developing into somebody who, with his length, relished the opportunity to guard on the perimeter and take some of the best players that the Jazz would face. He guarded John Morant in game number 1. He drew the Luka Doncic assignment in game number 3, and did a fairly good job because of his length and athleticism. Now that option is no longer there, so Utah will have to shuffle around a few pieces, and this will give other opportunities for some of these other guys who maybe weren't going to, because the number 9 overall pick had earned his right into a starting position. Now the Jazz are going to have to figure a few different things out.
Yeah, and I think they're going to try and split the minutes in a couple of different ways. Obviously, John Collins, Kyle Filipowski going to get a little bit more minutes. But I think you'll also see maybe Cody Williams have his time accelerate a little bit. It's not a one-to-one positional comparison, but if you move Lauri Markkanen down to the 4, and you throw Cody Williams in there as that shooting guard / small forward, and he kind of takes over some of that. It's not ideal to throw him into that situation because you wanted to see what Taylor Hendricks could do guarding those top matchups. Cody Williams ain't ready for that, but, well, you got a chance.
Have to learn.
Throw him in there. So if it goes horribly wrong, then, switch plans at that point.
It's a development year anyway for the Jazz.
So that may be one way they try to go, because Cody Williams, again, his big thing is defense, and he shows that same versatility, although more on the opposite end where he's kind of a shooting guard, small forward. Taylor Hendricks is kind of a power forward center. But hey, similar skill sets, just on different end of the spectrum. Try it out. And see what works. See if you can get Cody Williams, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler to kind of be the new front court trio there at small forward, power forward, and center. Didn't want to have that be the case in year 1, but that's how life rolls. You got unexpected situations, and maybe Cody Williams can step into that. Maybe Kyle Filipowski excels in a few more minutes. It looked like he was gonna get a lot of those DNP CDs early on. Now it looks like he might get 5-6 minutes a game. Depending on how well he plays going forward.
Yeah, and this will be. This was the game last night was an interesting thing to watch in that second half in comparison to what happened Friday with Golden State, where the game itself got off the rails for the Jazz and the team couldn't really get themselves back into it, and the margin just kept widening. Whereas there was a very traumatic thing that happened in front of all of them, but they were able to somewhat rally and still play competitive against a very talented Dallas team. I thought there were better performances by a number of Jazz players. I thought Colin Sexton was great. Keontae George was going home for him. He wanted to play better. He played marginally better than he had the previous games, but I think he's trying to improve. 5 boards, 5 assists, cut down on his turnovers a little bit, was a little better in shooting the ball. But then, John Collins, really, they were struggling in that third quarter until he started hitting 3-point shots and got them back into the game, and then they were competitive throughout the rest of it.
Yeah, so it's nice to see. Dallas can be one of the contenders, and you like to see the Jazz playing at least in spurts against a contending team. Lauri Markkanen, weird back-to-back iffy shooting nights, at least overall. I mean, he went 3 of 5 from 3, but struggled pretty much everywhere else on the field. I do continue to like what Colin Sexton is bringing, and it makes me continually curious about what his role is going to be going forward. Is he trade bait, or is he, a guy like Lauri Markkanen who will be like a key veteran on a theoretical contending Jazz team in 4 or 5 years?
I think his contract and just his skill set there at the 5. I mean, we kind of know his limitations, so I'm not sure what we could expect much to get back from John Collins. And I also saw in the Talking Head shows this morning that Markkanen having one of the worst starts shooting-wise to his career, and it seems to be kind of a can I say pandemic and not get canceled these days, like for the shooting there? So that hopefully will warm up as the weather here in Utah gets cooler. The shooting will heat up, and things will balance out to start out the season.
Yeah, Markkanen will be fine. Yeah, John Collins, as much as he'll get thrown around in trade circles, he's not going anywhere. As you mentioned, the contract, he's not really outplaying that, and it's a huge problem. But yeah, for Colin Sexton, could very easily get traded. Very friendly contract.
I like Colin. I thought he was underused in Cleveland. He's one of my favorite players to use in NBA 2K when I'm running the Jazz. He's got that motor that just keeps going. And I love what he did when the team was in turmoil yesterday, and he brought everybody back in the anchor, and they kept this team within striking distance. Losing by 8 to Dallas is not something to hang your head over, but I really like what he's doing, and you're right. He could be a big asset to be traded out this season, and maybe they can back up the Brinks trunk and rob it again and figure it out.
Well, that's the thing that Utah has to ultimately decide. I don't know if it's now, but I think probably by February they'll probably need to have a better idea of this. They've got Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, Keontae George, who all pretty much are the same archetype. And so who are they going to go with? Who can they potentially spin out to help either go get a player that they need that they don't have excess of, or future assets to help them grow in the future?
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see. And Jordan Clarkson may just be getting a little too old and, is kind of not playing as well as he did back in his 6th Man of the Year days. There may not be as much of a market, or people will just try and buy into him anyway, because, again, he is that, he's a veteran and still has that scoring archetype that people like coming off the bench. Colin Sexton could be the same thing for somebody just kind of the younger model and playing a lot better right now than Jordan Clarkson is. And so that's why I think those are probably your top 2 candidates for guys to be traded. And if somebody wants to overpay for Walker Kessler, then they might be able to get him, but I sincerely hope not. And JD, I wasn't happy with your tweet earlier today about him going to the Lakers.
Either way, I'd be happy to put Walker Kessler there in the middle next to AD, and all my dreams come true to have a big man that AD doesn't have to play the 5. But I don't think anybody's. Danny Ainge was pretty. Everybody not playing along, but he's a great poker player. He knows what he has, and he knows what he values. And if you're going to come overpay, it's great. I love my truck, but if somebody comes and offers me $100,000 for it, see you later.
Yeah, it's
buy low, sell high.
Yeah, it's that same tag that you throw on Lauri Markkanen. Obviously, different price ranges, but same concept of you can have him for the right price. But that price is going to be higher than you want to pay, probably.
It would have to be franchise altering to move him, I think, because the way they believe in him and the way he kind of embraces the community here, he's that superstar you don't want to let out of the box, and quite possibly could lure other players here, whether it's on that international thing or what. But yeah, he's that piece. What Golden State was offering was nothing. It was just quit hyping up your stuff. Was it some guy named Moses wants to come over?
Yeah.
What has he done in the last thousands of years except lead a bunch of people to be free?
Yeah. If we're talking about 2000 BC or when was Moses alive? I forget.
It was back when I was knee high to a grasshopper.
If we're talking 10th century BC Moses, I think we can talk, but otherwise he can lead the Jazz to the promised land.
Yeah, could you imagine that? Just split the defense and just let everybody go.
There we go.
The perfect screen assist.
There you go.
On that note, we need to take a timeout here on the Full Court Press. Love to get your thoughts, your reactions. Where do the Jazz go from here? Now, they haven't been able to get a win yet, so it's pretty early in the season. Does it really matter that much? 435-339-0321. Utah Hockey Club also had a pretty epic collapse late in their game last night. We'll talk about that as well next here on the Full Court Press.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime. Parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
Since 1896, couples throughout Utah have shopped S.E. Needham Jewelers for their diamond engagement ring. We offer our integrity price guarantee on a beautiful selection of unique, high-quality diamond engagement rings. Gals, you'll love our rings, and guys, you'll love our prices. We price our diamonds at internet pricing. Review the web and come see, hands-on, our beautiful selection. Shop and compare. Get S.E. Needham quality at internet pricing, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, J.D. Walker. Taylor Hendricks with a gruesome injury. It's a broken leg and a dislocated ankle. I mean, it's going to require surgery and a long time to recover. Really frustrating, and feel bad for Taylor because he was showing some real promise at the start of the year. After really limited time last year, his rookie year, we didn't really see him until February, March.
Yeah, he just got
they parked him in the G League.
Yeah, DNPs when he was on the active roster, G League whenever they could get a chance, and did fine in the G League as a number 9 pick is going to do, but felt like he was wasted. It's like, of course he's going to dominate the G League. Like, yeah, that's not going to help him become a great NBA player. It's just a stopgap so that he doesn't get cold. Doesn't forget how to play basketball from not playing it a ton.
Opportunities to get minutes, develop, work on specific things from the coaches because the what's the risk failure? It's pretty low failure rate. You can try things and fail, and it's not a really problem in the G League.
Yeah. Where
if you're in the NBA, I mean, there's a much narrower margin there.
Yes, because the Jazz were incredibly worried about their wins and losses last year.
Yeah. But we did start to see more of him later in the season when they're playing more of these rookies and young guys. And then a solid off season and was showing some real promise this year, and then having to go down with that injury. 8968 texting in is one who has been going through something similar since the 1st of September. I can really feel for Taylor.
There's a lot of people who have suffered similar injuries, not necessarily in a similar situation, but yeah, it's a brutal injury and a long recovery, and can be even harder for us regular people because we don't have $1 million doctors at our beck and call to do all the surgeries and rehab and yada, yada, yada.
So before we move on to the Utah Hockey Club, Jazz are at an 0-3 start. They play Sacramento tonight in Salt Lake City. Sacramento's been a pretty decent team lately. So when will the Jazz get their first win of the season?
Might be a minute, or it'll be tonight, because the second you start thinking they'll never win a game forever, and then suddenly they beat a team that they're completely not expected to beat. They do have the Spurs coming up on Halloween, which that's the one you kind of circle as like, hey, they can beat this team. I know you got Victor Wembanyama, but that's still not a very good Spurs team right now, at least. They're trying to move on the up and up because they got all their star talent they're going to work with for the next 10 years. But right now, you can maybe catch him.
What about on the 4th, the Bulls?
That's certainly a decent chance. The Bulls have just been, I don't know what they've been. They haven't been able to figure out what they want to do because it feels like they're always trying to contend but are absolutely horrible at it.
Is it Reinsdorf just still waiting for Jordan to come back? Like, maybe. Jordan's in NASCAR now. I think he just won a race this weekend with his team. So maybe Jerry's waiting for Jordan to come back, lace him up again, put the 4 or 5 on. And
that might
Boston's 2-2 to start the season.
Let's talk about Chicago, not Boston.
Sorry, not Boston. I meant Chicago. I was looking at Boston. Chicago is 2-2.
I mean, maybe, like I say, the problem is when you're looking at records in the first couple of games of the season, like you look a couple of years back, the Jazz were the number 1 team in the West after like 2 weeks. That didn't mean anything. And, the fact that the Bucks are like 1-2, 1-3 right now or something like that. They haven't been off to the hottest start. I forget what they did against Boston yesterday, but
Milwaukee's 1-3. Boston is one of the teams. Or why do I keep saying Boston? Chicago. You saying Bulls, and I say Boston when I say Bulls. Chicago is one of those teams that beat the Bucks.
Yeah, so the Bulls might be another good chance. The Nuggets are kind of iffy right now. I don't know what's happened with the Nuggets. They're struggling a little bit. Well, the thing is they can't stay ahead of teams when Nikola Jokic sits on the bench.
Yeah, when he sits down, it's a dramatically different team.
Yeah, that's their biggest problem is they don't have the non-Jokic minutes coverage. Maybe they go after a guy like Colin Sexton and say, hey, we need somebody to go out there and score points. Obviously, nobody's going to replicate what Jokic does, but be a stopgap. So
I don't think tonight is going to be the night to get the W. Using some of your human biometrics is what I'll call them. After you have the injury to Hendricks, the adrenaline probably to finish that game, the emotions after it, and then I can kind of see we played the Grizzlies really close. And then Golden State was kind of a distance. The Kings have DeMar DeRozan. They've got Sabonis, who is just a stud back there, just like his dad was back in the day. And they're built. I mean, I know they're 1-2 right now, but I have a feeling that they're going to be one of the contenders. So I'm not quite sure it's going to be tonight.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to call the Kings a contender because they always act like they're going to be contenders and end up as like the 7 seed. That's kind of the Kings' problem.
Or even when they are a high seed, they collapse in the playoffs.
They get those 3-point shots from Robert Horry in the playoffs to knock them out.
Because I do love most of the players with the Kings. I loved Aaron Fox, Sabonis, as you mentioned. They got DeRozan, who's obviously started the season pretty well. My biggest thing is they've never been able to stop De'Aaron Fox. It feels like every time I feel like he plays the Jazz, he goes for like 35. Kind of like what Russell Westbrook used to do. Just something about being a quick, fast, and super athletic guard just makes, just something about that the Jazz can't stop. So De'Aaron Fox may have a big game. Watching Walker Kessler against Sabonis will be interesting. And we'll see who takes care of DeRozan because that probably would have been Taylor Hendricks' job.
That would have been his assignment.
But now we're going to have to figure out how the Jazz adjust defensively. If they have a great offensive game, let's say Lowry goes for 40 and Keontae George doesn't have another 5 for 18 game, the Jazz could win this. It wouldn't be that shocking because that's the way the NBA is. Any team can beat any other team, more so than most other sports, to be honest. But that's just kind of the nature of basketball in and of itself. But if you're going as far as what I would expect, ESPN's matchup predictor has a 60-40 chance for the Kings, and that sounds about right.
Let's see. So one more thing about the Jazz before we go to Utah Hockey Club. Utah Jazz legend Rudy Gay announced his retirement today.
I didn't realize he hadn't retired
NBA
yet.
seasons. Yeah, I didn't know he was still in the league.
I don't think
I thought he was out of the league last year.
Yeah, he has not played in a season since 2022/23. So not even last year. He was not on a team last year, or at least didn't appear in a game for anybody. Let me go look at his transaction history. I don't know if he was signed with anybody.
I know you want to extend your career as long as you can, but is there ever a time when it comes like you've missed your shot to retire at the right time? Like now you just retired on a Tuesday in October?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, I get it. You want to kind of keep extending it and keep going on, but at some point you got to realize, hey, maybe we should call this and do it a little bit more ceremoniously than a Tuesday.
I think he should have just retired because I looked this up to track exactly where he went after he was with the Jazz, but they traded him to Atlanta as part of that John Collins deal. But then,
then they waived him, right?
Yeah, no, within a week he was traded to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City then waived him a week after that. So he was traded from the Jazz on July 7th. By July 19th, he had already moved teams again and was waived by the Thunder. In September, he was signed, like late September, almost October, he was signed with the Golden State Warriors, but was waived less than a month later. Didn't play with anybody the rest of the season, hasn't been signed anywhere. So he retires.
Well, you'd think after that stretch, you'd say, I don't think I could make it in this league. But he waited a full other year before finally announcing his retirement.
The Tuesday in October he should have retired on was the one after the 21st. Just been like, all right,
a year ago.
Here. or maybe even after he was waived by the Thunder, that would have maybe been a little more graceful to say, all right, we're done here.
Isn't the NBA so nice and considerate? Instead of getting cut or DFA'd, you get waived.
I mean, look, the guy had 17 years. I mean, there was a stretch where he was a great, great player. And I think Utah got him in hopes that he could be a solid veteran presence for them. But Quinn Snyder didn't know how to utilize him. It really didn't. I don't know. Those two just didn't connect. They didn't work out, and Grudy didn't really do a whole lot on a Jazz uniform. And then Will Hardy comes in, and all of a sudden, wow, Rudy Gay is like doing things for this Jazz team. But even then, it was short-lived, and the Jazz realized this guy's done this very tail end of his NBA career. He's just taking up room from young guys that need those minutes on the court, so we need to move off of him. But he had that fat contract, which they needed to move, and that was always problematic. And that was part of the deal to get John Collins here. Now they're faced with another situation where they've got another guy on the roster with the fat contract, but Collins is producing way more than Rudy Gay ever did.
Yeah, I think they were just hoping for Rudy Gay to basically be Joe Johnson 2.0, and that Joe Johnson was the tail end of his career, but came in and was very valuable in what he did, at least like that first year, maybe year and a half. By the end, like Rudy Gay in a Jazz uniform was like what the last year of Joe Johnson in a Jazz uniform was. Complete waste of time. Every minute he was on the court, because it was clear he was just not an NBA player anymore. He wasn't the player that he once was. Obviously, Rudy Gay at one point was a guy who could put up 19, 20 a game, was a fringe all-star. He was never selected to an all-star team, but was like a fringe all-star candidate with those Memphis teams, and, you know, kind of did okay with some of his time in Sacramento, but clearly by the time he was in San Antonio and Utah, he was really tailing off as far as the caliber of player he was. And by the time he was in Utah, he was, you know, he got consistent enough time when he was healthy, but it wasn't really worth it, especially with what the Jazz, I think, were hoping for at that point.
Yeah. So calling it a day. I guess he had a post in the Players Tribune today. But basically, he's just saying, you know, I'm the luckiest man in the world, and all this other stuff about coming to grips with that he wasn't really at that point to be able to compete much longer. It says I'm 38 years old. That's nowhere even near mid-career for most people's professional lives. So the way I see it, I've got a lot of work ahead of me.
Yeah, dude got to play 17 years in the NBA, which is 17 years longer than the vast majority of us. So to call himself the luckiest man in the world is not necessarily an unfair thing for him to say. And obviously, I'm sure you enjoyed a lot of that. And so definitely, you know, good luck to him and the rest of his endeavors.
Yeah. Definitely outplayed the average NBA career. By a long shot.
17 seasons.
He outplayed the average NBA career by about 15 years.
I mean, it's pretty impressive when you think about it. I'm not going to mention the other one that just keeps going and going and going down in the Los Angeles area, but 17 years in the NBA, that's a lot to do to try to hang on. Some of these guys get those roles at the end to be those mentors and stuff, and he was able to do that and actually be productive. Yeah. Kind of interesting, though, that isn't Quinn Snyder the coach of the Atlanta Hawks?
He is.
And so he didn't like Rudy Gay here, and then they traded for him in Atlanta and traded.
Now, they immediately waived him. Well, not immediately, but very quickly waived him. Like I said, they only waited about 5 days. But yeah, there's some guys who extend their career by about 6 or 7 years longer than you expect. Vince Carter kind of did that. Udonis Haslem, I think, is only just barely out of the NBA.
Yeah.
But he was more of a coach, though.
He was a player coach.
Yeah, he was essentially an assistant coach for the last 4 years of his career. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes, you know, it's just going to be like that. Some guys are able to show their worth even when they're in the 35, 36, when we call them, you know, ancient, old, make all the old person jokes, even though that's technically still kind of the prime of your life for most people.
Yeah. I don't call those any old or anything, because at 43 now, I
was about to say now.
The thing is, you know what? We're still in the prime of our life.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong side of 30 now. So I was like, hold on. I used to say everyone over 30 was old. And it's like, well, now I'm over 30.
Just keep moving the goalposts.
That's why I'm biased when I say 36 is still kind of the prime of your life because I'm not willing to accept I've moved out of it yet.
Oh, man. Cool.
3714, Eric, were you looking for risk reward? Yes. Sorry.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
got a little tongue-tied
we're talking risk reward?
Yeah.
But I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
So.
We've got to take a timeout here. When we come back, we will get into the Utah Hockey Club. Had a 4-1 lead over the hapless San Jose Sharks, but end up losing the game in overtime. How did that happen? We'll discuss next on the Full Court Press.
22 years ago, Cafe Sabor opened in the historic train station. Come celebrate this October as Cafe Sabor says thanks. Thank you to the hundreds of amazing employees and thousands of wonderful customers that have made Cafe Sabor Cache Valley's favorite Latin restaurant. Receive free spinach artichoke dip, free fried ice cream, or churros with the purchase of 2 entrees. A simple but delicious way to say thank you. Free spinach artichoke dip, fried ice cream, or churros at Cafe Sabor's 22nd anniversary celebration. See server for details.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm.
Looking for luxury appliances is convenient and easy at Darrell's Appliance. This is Jay, one of the owners at Darrell's. Our 5-star installation and service are exactly what you want for your Wolf, Sub-Zero, or Thermador kitchen. We get it done right the first time and service everything we sell. Experience the Darrell's difference west on Airport Road.
See Darrell's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
The convenience and security a Generac backup generator can bring is unmatched. Golden Spike Electric is your local source for Generac sales and service. Act now, and for a short time, take advantage of Generac's free 7-year warranty. Get yours today at Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Generac keeps you in control. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, J.D. Walker. Text came in from 7994. Talking of the Utah Hockey Club, I was able to go to the game last night. The first 55 minutes were really entertaining. The last 5 minutes was chaos. Our defense fell apart and the puck did not bounce our way. It was just shocking.
I'm sorry you had to experience that. Just because that's incredibly frustrating to see a team just completely throw a game like that. You know, in a situation where the hockey club, or as I believe they're starting to be called, the Clubbers, we need a good nickname that isn't just hockey club. So
baby seals everywhere are cringing.
We're just going to start calling them the Clubbers. But
makes me think of Clubber Lang, old boxer.
But yeah, it's frustrating to see him just drop it like that. I know normally they've been good in overtime. I know they have lost an overtime game, but they'd won like 2 or 3 others. But also just who they lost to, because you thought for sure they're not going to lose to the winless San Jose Sharks. I know eventually San Jose was going to get a win over somebody, and this is it. They got their first win of the season, but like, my goodness, to be on the losing end of that game. It's not just losing to him, it's losing to him in that fashion.
Yeah, it's definitely a devastating thing. There's San Jose have got some history with them and devastating losses. Were down 4 goals to the Golden Knights a couple years ago, and then within a 3-minute period came back with some major penalties and stuff. And it's just crazy how the goal net, the hockey net, sometimes it can seem like for your home team that it's basically the size of a Coke can to try to get a hockey puck in there. But then, for some reason, the other team, it looked like last night for the Sharks, It looked like that thing was as big as an 18-wheeler. They were able to get anything and everything in, and it just, the defensive play is really unfortunate. Kesselring's really stepping up and doing some great things. I think he took a penalty in the overtime that kind of boneheaded. But the defense is the problem, and goaltending is one of those things. And, it's you got some cap space to go there. You're going to have to decide if you're going to go on that blue line or if you're going to go out there and try to find a goaltender that can maybe settle down the back end of this defense.
Yeah, 4-1. The offense had kind of disappeared for the last couple of games, and it had returned. Like, okay, the offense is clicking, the defense is solid. 4-1 at the end of 2, and then it just as the texter said, the last and then good chunk of the third period doing pretty well, but then the last several minutes it just total collapse and allow 3 goals in the third period to send it overtime and then lose in overtime to the Sharks of all teams. So it's a young team, we know that, but it's not totally. There are young players on the team, but I don't want to necessarily brand the Utah Hockey Club as just a young team. It seems unfair.
Yeah, they got some experienced guys that they've added on this team, and so some of the key guys are young, but you got to hope that this is just kind of an up and down of the team. They're down right now. They were up at the start of the season, and hope they can overcome that, but this losing run has also coincided with a couple of injuries they took where they've not been, able to control the games nearly as well with a defense that keeps giving up goals and an offense that got a little bit cold after that, really hot start.
Also, the teams had to deal with some other stuff before they came here with the building. So normally you would see a team that's not an expansion team like this have some of those veteran pieces that are there. But just last season, the owner was in sell mode. Anytime they could sell off a piece, make a little bit of money on the cap, and save some stuff, they would. So you're kind of seeing that play out here, that they some of those pieces that they might have had if they hadn't, sold the farm the last couple of years because the owner was a dirtbag, they might have a little bit better, be prepared for this. But now we're seeing a lot of youth that has to come in and step up.
And so I had a lot of hopes for year one. I was hoping maybe they could pull off the Vegas Golden Knights thing, which that was always unrealistic, but, a guy can dream. But the thing is,
you can't be a Patriots fan and have all those championships and put that into play for your hockey team. I'm sorry. That's too much. You're asking for way too much.
I make up for my Patriots fandom by being a fan of the Utah Jazz. Okay? I have paid my penance for being a Patriots fan.
I think you got a couple more years before that penance is fully paid. But you got
the Patriots now suck. And the Jazz have always, they've always come up short. They've not like they've been bad, but like I said.
Yeah, grab a tissue way down by those 7 Super Bowl rings and wipe those tears.
I will. I'll pull out my keychain, which has the thing used to have, actually this lanyard I have became outdated because it said 5 Super Bowls. And then they won another one.
Oh, my God.
Utah Hockey Club, they've played 10 games. They've got 10 points on the season so far, tied with St. Louis and Colorado.
Yeah, they got a point for that blowing that
in the
loss.
Central Division. So, it's not out of contention. They've got some things they got to figure out. It's still a very young season, but yeah, this is it's going to be big for this coaching staff and development of young players because there have been some injuries. They have to slide in some younger, unproven guys into some important roles to try to fill some gaps. So last night was an illustration of a young and inexperienced team at certain positions, and that really cost them the game.
Yeah, so we'll see if they decide to go out there and trade. This is a team that's looking more toward the future. I know I was hoping for a good year one, but it's a team that's positioned well for the future.
Where are you jumping off the boat already?
No.
Okay, let's just put this into perspective.
Because my hopes are, we may not get that year one Golden Knights run, but it's they can go out and still have a good season, but it may be better to put my hopes in year 2 and 3 as opposed to year 1.
Okay, let's put things in perspective right now. Last year, Edmonton went to the Stanley Cup Finals, right? They're 4-5-1 right now, okay? Boston, same record as Utah right now. So panic and boat jumping, we can save that until January. We're going to do okay. You could still have your Golden Knights run. This is 10 games in.
They just got to wait for guys to come back from injury.
Yeah, and we're talking about
deadline.
The big dogs that are getting some time to adjust to their new teams too. So We need to give this team some time to adjust and work things out. Let's still stay on your one, Jason. Don't leave me just yet, okay?
Well, I'm also in jazz mode, where I just...
You got to separate the two. You're going to have to separate the two. Because at the trade deadline, the Utah Hockey Club are going to be buyers. Do you know what that means, being a Jazz fan?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, that means they go out and they acquire talent. They bring it in to get better. Not sell off what they have for a bunch of lottery tickets and scratchers. And those scratchers sometimes hit, though.
Yeah, and so that's what I've been kind of looking at. Because as I looked at the hockey club, it's like, okay, this is a team that isn't necessarily a championship caliber, but like, what do they do with the trade deadline? And, how does the year end? Do they end with a good playoff run? Were they buyers of the trade deadline? That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. And it's what's helping me through the current losing streak, is that understanding of, hey, let's wait until the trade deadline. Let's wait until they get some of these guys that are injured back, whether that be end of this year or next year. So keeping an eye on that and hoping for the best. My year one hopes of a Stanley Cup are on the fritz a little bit, but not dead.
We'll get you one of those little Stanley Cups at the end of the year. We could do that.
Yeah. 5338 before we go to a break. Hockey club also needs to be more disciplined and stay out of the penalty box. That really puts pressure on your defense and goalie to face more shots.
Yeah, are they leading the league in penalty minutes or close to it?
Well, that's spicy tuna. When you have guys like that you have to insert in your lineup. Like he's kind of known for being a little bit of a brawler and stuff out there, so you're going to get more penalty minutes. I imagine with a young team, probably the discipline on there maybe.
Yeah, all right, we've got to take a break, and we can look at that and come back on those details after this timeout here on the Full Court Press.
Ski season is coming, which means Season Ski Rentals. This is Mark at the Sportsman, where we have over 20 years of season ski rental experience. We rent to kids and adults. Come in to get season ski rentals for your entire family. We like to wait a little later in the fall because there is a chance your kids might grow out of their boots by the time ski season actually rolls around. Starting at $69.99, you will get the right gear for your kids to ski this year at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan, with tons of parking in the back.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. A few years ago, I saw this sign hanging in a gas station. It said price, quality, service. Pick 2 out of the 3. Now, it's funny, and I did laugh, but at My Mattress, we don't even want to do business unless we can do all 3. Price, quality, and service. We have a 90-day sleep guarantee, 90-day price guarantee, and we will answer the phone if you have a warranty concern. At My Mattress, we deliver, we have financing, we strive to be price, quality, and service every day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Copiers, printers, service, and supplies are just the beginning. Les Olson IT is the premier source for your business's structured cabling, IT, software, telephones, and security systems. We partner with you to find the ideal solution to all of your office technology needs. Tell us your goals and we'll get you there. Find out more at lesolson.com.
Les Olson IT.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Snow, ice, cold weather, it's here. Were you ready for it? If you're still not quite ready, stop into your local Napa Auto Parts store. Get some good wiper blades. Make sure your battery is up to snuff. They can test your battery. If it's more than 4 years old, they can test it before it leaves you stranded out in the cold. And if you need a new one, they'll even help install it for you. Go check them out. Napa Auto Parts between Preston and Providence, locally owned and operated. We got an answer to the question about the Utah Hockey Club, where they stand as far as penalty minutes across the NHL.
Tied for second with Boston Bruins, 118 penalty minutes, only 1 minute behind the Philadelphia Flyers at 119. So basically worse than the NHL, but obviously in the same range of a couple other teams.
Yeah, that's something you got to clean up with a young team. That's something you got to clean up.
Yeah, because there's being an enforcer in, and the physicality and trying to be the more physical team. And then there's being an idiot and committing all the penalties. Not so much being an idiot as being undisciplined is the issue there. It's not your intelligence, it's your discipline.
I want to hear you call hockey and say, there goes that idiot to the box.
I wouldn't call any of these guys idiots to their face, because then they will do something idiotic by shoving my face through the glass. Because they're a lot tougher than I am and could definitely beat me up.
Yeah, but that glass is pretty stirdy and it keeps us separated, so you're able to bang on it and stuff.
Yeah.
It's when you really get face to face, like, oh, no.
Yeah, no, thank you. Let's, we got like a minute.
Yeah, so which of these quick topics can we hit?
Let's just mention the Aggies in the NFL. Jordan Love suffered a bit of a groin injury, had to leave the game this last Sunday. On Monday, they did announce that it's not structurally bad, and there's a good chance that he could even play this coming week, which is good news.
Yeah, just a lot of minor injuries kind of hampering his season. But the key is he going to be healthy for the playoffs? That's the most important thing. When you begin to have these minor injuries, it's about maintaining them and trying to stay healthy, because obviously there may be hopes that he could maybe contend for like an MVP or be an all NFL quarterback. I almost said all NBA quarterback, but yeah, it's trying to be healthy for the playoffs, keep the Packers in the best situation for the playoffs. They're obviously doing pretty well right now. 6-2 or 5-2, I think. So they forget their record, but 6-2. So hopefully they'll be healthy enough for the regular season and for the playoffs to have the most success for the Packers.
Yeah, and Bobby Wagner continuing to do good work. The second leading tackler for the Washington Commanders in their dramatic win over the Bears.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. After 8 weeks of the NFL season, the league's hierarchy is starting to take shape. But we can't believe everything we see, at least not yet. Just go back to last season. The Eagles were 7-1 through 8 games. And the team went 1-4 to end the season, including a loss in the wild card round. The Jags, an even worse end of their season. After a 6-2 start, which the Jags won 5 straight, the team failed to make the playoffs. But it's not all negative. The Texans, Buccaneers, Rams, Packers all made it to the postseason with losing records through 8 weeks last season. All of those teams made it to the divisional round except the Rams. So although the playoff format appears to be taking shape, when you look at the amount of parity we have seen so far, if last year's any indication, we are nowhere close to knowing anything about the playoffs. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.